This is a response to a Voice for Men radio rant posted on the Happy Misogynist channel. So, I find this a very ironic video because the title is Rape Hysteria, kind of bracketed under this idea of let's tone it down and stop the hysteria concerning rape, which is an ongoing MRA position that I continue to have trouble with. Because the MRA position, to counter the feminist position, includes quite a lot of hysteria. And this video is a very good example of it. Now, to begin with, he cites a Japanese intellectual who presented the idea in a lecture that deleting someone's number from your cell phone constitutes domestic abuse. Now, so far I'm with you. So far, so good. Ivory tower intellectuals can kind of come up with these expansive definitions that don't apply to the real world. And it's certainly true. Domestic abuse does not include deleting someone's phone number. I'm with you so far. But, at least in terms of this video, there was no citations of what this argument really is. I need a link so that I can go look at a story covering it. Where did your information come from? Newswire, AP, Reuters? How was this information conveyed to you? Did you have a staff reporter who was there? Is it something that I can look at as a consumer, read the full text or excerpts of the text to get a better understanding, or do you just want me to take your word for it? Now, I've had this problem with MRAs before. When I ask for a citation, when I ask for a link to track back to where they got their sources, they just give me a link to another MRA, making the same argument, unlinked, unverified, no citations, and no reflections on where the information came from. So there's nothing that I can do with that. But the reason why that is such a problem is because when I do look into these issues for myself, I find that the MRA has exaggerated, misstated, or otherwise completely gotten the issue wrong. My experience with this matters tells me that it is most likely she was making some kind of a nuanced argument, a point in some larger issue. Or she was doing an overview of things you can do to your partner that are kind of shitty. But somehow I'm left wondering if you have even presented what she said accurately. And this is reinforced by the fact that you have not provided any information on where this information comes from. Now, when I did go look up the domestic abuse registry, it's a real thing. Just like there's a sex crimes registry, there's a domestic abuse registry. And I'll leave the link to that below. The thing that stood out to me most blatantly, in order to get on the registry, you have to have a conviction. A conviction in a court of law, which is a public record. That's how the registry can take and post that information without violating anyone's rights. Your conviction is a matter of public record. And it's worth noting, anyone who has a domestic abuse conviction, men and women, get put on this registry. Now, the scenario that you line out seems to make sense until you get to the end of your video. Then it is complete hysteria. It is complete nonsense. What you're talking about would be illegal. To say a woman comes to a shelter, she fills out a questionnaire. Okay, that's fine. She fills out the information, and yes, based on what the questionnaire is, that can allow people to manipulate the data for a specific political purpose. Okay, I follow you so far. But then you say, that means that the man in question will now be on the record as committing domestic abuse. No. No. Because the questionnaire itself is not a matter of public record. You see, there's this thing called the Privacy Act. I'll link some information about that below. A questionnaire that includes someone's personal information, and you're under the assumption that it includes not just the personal information of the woman in question, but the personal information of the man in question. At that point, there are laws detailing how that information can and can't be used. Specifically, the personal information cannot be used in the way you have described. Now, if you have such an organization that is doing such a thing, then you have a real case. In fact, why the hell are you talking about it? Why aren't you in contact with lawyers? If you're an activist for men's rights, what you're talking about would constitute actual criminal activity, and you would get those organizations shut down. But I don't think you can do that because I don't think that actually happens. I think this is hot air. I think you are blowing bullshit. Because you don't want to get rid of rape hysteria. You want to use it for your own ends. You want to turn it around and make it into a political weapon. So, there's my challenge to you. What you've said is total bullshit, unless you are able to bring lawyers into it and get these organizations shut down for violations of the Privacy Act. And if that's what you have, then stop fucking talking about it and do something useful. For that reason, I don't believe what you're saying, and I think your video is complete and total crap.